intelligence. Should be about mitigating the damage at this point. So to drive this home, to drive how I think technology can really help us, I'm going to end the show with a look at a discussion with Marcus Aurelius. I'm gonna butcher that. If it happened today with Tim Ferriss. This entire discussion is the result of an artificial intelligence, GPT-3, which I'm going to try and go more in depth in the show, being asked to create this hypothetical discussion. In a nutshell, what this technology is just a word predictor. You're asking this technological genie in a box to put something that you're interested in, and it's going to do its best thing to provide the output that you're looking for. And this most recent iteration that we've seen is so powerful, so mind-boggling in its capacity, that I think it's going to change the world in ways that even I was not prepared for. If you would have asked me a year ago, I would have said the first thing to look for is a artificial intelligence that's so powerful that it can drive a car by itself. And the harder things to automate, to recreate, will be human creativity in general, will be the human connection that we can have with one another. After having my hands on applications of this technology, I can see the ways in which it will be able to bootstrap our emotional health, our creative capacity, and ways that we can connect with each other, but also mirror the connection with ourselves, and start to build a foundation of mental health, mental prosperity, even when the seas are so choppy like they are right now. So the following is a conversation with Marcus Aurelius, if he were appearing on the Tim Ferriss podcast. This is from Aram Sabeti, his kind of blog post that he has here. This is AI Tim Ferriss interviews AI Marcus Aurelius with GPT. The only thing that has been inputted here by a human is this first line here. I'm sorry, these two lines. Here is a transcript from Tim Ferriss's interview with Marcus Aurelius. Tim, thank you for joining me, Marcus. Or should I use your title, Caesar? So just to make sure that you understand what's happening here. Only thing that's happened is a human has put in these two sentences as a prompt. Everything that happens from this point on is just a word predictor. Basically the same thing as when you're texting someone and it says, I think you want to say the word will after I. It's just these parameters that it's working with. It's reading the entire internet and it's starting to extrapolate outcomes that it thinks is the thing that you want. And this is how good it's gotten. Marcus. You may call me Marcus. I do not stand on ceremony. Tim, fair enough. So I want to start at the beginning. What is Stoicism? Marcus. Stoicism is a philosophy of life. It is a way of looking at the world. It is about seeing clearly what is in front of us and feeling what is in our hearts. It's about doing what is right, no matter what the cost. It is about living in accordance to nature and treating others with kindness and respect. Tim, I like that. So, what's the goal of Stoicism? Marcus. The goal of Stoicism is to lead a good life, and a life accordance with nature. Tim, what does that mean? Marcus. It means doing what we ought to do, not doing what we want to do. It means acting rationally, not emotionally. Tim. Okay, so how do we do that? Marcus. By paying attention to what is in our power and not worrying about the rest. Tim. That's a great answer, but what does that mean? Marcus. It means we have control over our actions, our judgments, and our feelings. It means we can choose how to respond to events outside of our control. It means we can choose what to think. Tim, I like that. So, how do you apply Stoicism to life? Marcus. By facing the world with a smile and acting with justice, kindness, and honesty. I like that too. So, can you give me an example? Marcus. Sure. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, not of the same blood and birth, but of the same mind, and possessing a share of the divine. And so none of them can hurt me. No one can implicate me in ugliness, nor can I feel angry at my relative, or hate him. We were born to work together, like feet, hands, and eyes, like the 2 rows of teeth, upper and lower. To obstruct each other is unnatural. To feel anger at someone, to turn your back on him, these are obstructions. Tim, that's a great passage. So how do we deal with adversity? Marcus, by recognizing that there is nothing more than what it is, a thing that can be endured. Tim, that's hard. It is, but it's also liberating. How do you mean? The things that cause us suffering are those that are out of our control. Death, illness, poverty, dishonor, slander, and all such things. If you accept that they are fated to happen, they will lose their power over you. That's a powerful idea. So how do we deal with pain? Marcus, the first step is recognizing that pain is an opinion, not a fact. The second is accepting that it can't be changed. The third is being thankful that it isn't worse. Tim, that's a great way of putting it. So what's the best way to deal with other people? Marcus, be kind. Everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. Tim, what about those who are unkind? Marcus, they are like children, who are not unkind, who are unkind and not by choice, but because they don't know better. How do we deal with external events that we can't control? We have to accept that we have no control over them. Tim, I like that. I have a question. I heard it said that Stoicism is a cold and emotionless philosophy. Marcus, that's not true. Stoics feel all the emotions. They just don't allow those emotions to determine their behavior. So you're saying that Stoics don't repress their emotions? Marcus, no. The Stoic does not indulge her emotions, but she feels them fully and completely. What about death? Death is nothing to us. When we exist, death is not yet present. And when death is present, then we no longer exist. It doesn't concern us at all. That's a great answer. So, can you sum up Stoicism for me? Sure. I can tell you that it is the art of living. It is about seeing clearly, doing good, and facing adversity. Is it about accepting what cannot be changed and freeing yourself from the things that cause you suffering? It is about being strong and kind. It is about seeing the world as it is, not as you want it to be. So at this point, the human comes in and creates this prompt. One thing to note about GPT-3 is that it's extremely good at reading a prompt, but it does start to lose its ability to relate to what you're saying as it continues on. So in order to kind of guide it back to the topic at hand, you have to, quote, program by prompt. So the human at this point types in, Tim, I like that. For a small change of topic, there are a few questions I'd like to ask. As you may know, I'm a huge fan of books and read dozens of them every year. What is the book or books you've given most as a gift, and why? What are 1 to 3 books that have greatly influenced your life? So this is just such an interesting application, or this is such an interesting engagement of artificial intelligence, is to try and take what the AI believes Marcus Aurelius to be, and then extrapolate what, given the modern day and age, the modern pop culture, media, novels, and fiction of the day, would be relevant to his ideology. So, the AI Marcus continues, I'm a big fan of biographies, especially those of the great philosophers and statesmen. I like to read about how others have dealt with adversity and challenges. I also love history books, especially those of the Roman Empire. Tim, I like that. What about books you've read recently that you would recommend? Marcus, I've been reading The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. It's about how to turn obstacles into advantages. That sounds good. I'll check it out. What about books that have been greatly influenced in your life? Marcus, the Enchiridion of Epictetus. Oh, it's really trying to tongue twist me now. Tim, I guess you like Roman philosophers. What about favorite quotes? I have many favorites. Give me some. It is difficult to fight against one's natural impulses. Accept life as it comes. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. How much time he saves who does not look to see what his neighbor says, or does, or thinks. Again, this is an artificial intelligence speaking. This has only been guided by 2 sentences, and then in the middle, 1 paragraph by a human perspective. Tim, I like those. What about favorite movies or TV shows? Marcus, I'm a big fan of many of the HBO series, such as Rome, The Sopranos, and Game of Thrones. Or Marcus, I don't think he's seen the ending of Game of Thrones yet. At this point, the human comes back in and says, what purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months or in recent memory? My readers love specifics like brand and model, where you found it, etc. So again, I'm really going to dive into this in episodes to come because I think this is the most transformative technology I have ever seen. It has got me unbelievably... It's just so cerebral in nature. What we're seeing happen here is he's interacting with this hypothetical AI, Marcus Aurelius, by what's called programming by prompt. Whereas normal programming with, an application, you would be in code, C++ and Python and all of this and that. This natural language processor that is GTP3, developed by OpenAI, that's Sam Altman of Y Combinator and Elon Musk of Tesla and SpaceX. They own OpenAI, which has developed GPT-3. It's just essentially, it's able to understand the human language so well that it can just respond to what you ask it to do. And if it doesn't do what you want it to do, just like if a certain line of code doesn't interact with the rest of the code, you have to go in and just alter the code until it does. This natural language processor will be able to respond and more accurately output what it is that you're asking it to do. Change the prompt. So where he says, my readers love specifics like brand and model or where you found it, etc., there's a couple different things happening here. He's requesting that the AI go into a specific brand and model, where you found it, and then etc. Also adding in, undetermined variables at the end of it, and then saying my readers, keeping the AI on track of following along with the blog. So as we see artificial intelligence evolve, what we're really going to see is, at least in this space, the evolution of accurate prompts, of how to prompt correctly. Because you can have a bad prompt and get a bad outcome. The AI works better with what you give it initially. It's just a mind-blowing. Okay, let's continue. The AI Marcus responds to this question by saying, Marcus, I'm a big fan of the Moleskine notebooks. I just ordered the new junior version. Again, the human writes here, how has a failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure of yours? Marcus says, I failed at many things early in life. I failed as a student, as an athlete, and as a politician. I failed as a husband and a father. But each failure taught me something about myself and the world. I learned from these failures and became a better man for it. If you could have a gigantic billboard, anything on it, metaphorically speaking, getting a message out to millions or billions, what would you say to it and why? It could be a few words or a paragraph. That was written by a human. Marcus. Quote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Human, what is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made? It would be an investment of money, time, energy, etc. Marcus says travel. I've visited many countries and learned much from others. Tim, what is an unusual habit or an absurd thing that you love? Marcus, I love to swim. I've done it every day for years. What is the best advice you've ever received? I have no talent for drinking. I must therefore leave it alone. I like that. So, what's a personal habit that contributes to your success? I write in a journal every day. Just a quick note, I think Andrew Yang also has that advice for us. The human comes back in. In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life? So again, right here, the human is trying to guide the AI back to the realization that, the specific time frame that we're talking about is the past 5 years. Marcus says, I've adopted a no complaining policy. I used to complain all the time about everything. This doesn't mean I don't have complaints. It means I keep them to myself. Like I said, the reason why I'm doing this right now is because this artificial intelligence in the things that it's brought up, whether they are word for word verbatim of the writings of Marcus Aurelius, it has enhanced the way that I view and interface with the world. I think that I could probably keep some of the complaints that I have about our current world to myself a little bit more often. Tim, the human, what advice would you give to a smart, driven college student about how to enter the, quote, real world? Marcus, educate yourself. Read as much as you can. Surround yourself with people who are better than you. Don't waste time on jealousy or resentment. Don't let your emotions control you. Find a cause that is bigger than yourself and devote yourself to it. The human comes back in. What are bad recommendations you hear in your profession or area of expertise? Marcus says, your gut doesn't matter. That's a quote. You must learn to trust your gut and use it to navigate the world. Another quote, it's too late for this, or you're too old for that, or you'll never be able to do that. The human, again, in the last 5 years, what have you become better at saying no to? Distractions, invitations, etc. What new realizations and or approaches have helped? Any other tips? Marcus, I've learned that it's better to give a small amount of time to many people than a lot of time to few people. The human again comes in. When you feel overwhelmed or unfocused or have lost your focus temporarily, what do you do? If helpful, what questions do you ask yourself? Marcus, I take a break and do some exercise. Then I get back to work. The AI Tim, if you were to start again, what would you do differently? Marcus, I would have studied philosophy much earlier in life. It has changed everything for me. Tim, if you could wake up, this is the AI still. If you could wake up tomorrow having gained any one quality or ability, what would it be? There is no right answer, I'm just curious. Marcus, I would like to be able to read other people's minds. I'm pretty good at understanding what others are thinking. But I'd like to be able to read their thoughts directly. Tim, one last question. What does success mean to you? Marcus, finding a purpose larger than yourself and devoting your life to it. Tim says, thank you, Marcus. I really enjoyed this. Marcus, it was a pleasure. And I think that it actually ends here with, I think Marcus actually gives like these hypothetical plugs. He says, if you like this conversation, I think you'll like my books, Tools of Titans, The Tactics, Routines, and Habits of Billionaires, Icons, and World-Class Performers. In the book, I deconstruct world-class performers, routines, and habits you can apply to your, and then it stops abruptly. So I think that that's just kind of like where, because one of the possibilities that I don't know if this author did or did not do is, you can choose the best prompt. He may have put the prompt in, gotten about 5 or 6 different responses, and he chose the one that he thinks was the most to the prompt in question. What should be noted is that even with that consideration in play, the advancement that this GPT-3 has made over its previous iteration, GPT-2, is so incredibly powerful that we're talking about like having to choose between 100 different prompts that it would give you to find something good and coherent to literally 1 to 5. It is so good that it just streamlines creativity. I can't even begin express how powerful this thing is, and there is no sign of it stopping in the way that it grows. Over the past couple of years, no. Over the past couple of, in the coming years, no. In the coming number of months, we're going to see this thing start to do things that look like magic to us. And I highly encourage you, if you're watching this stream or if you're interested in what I'm talking about right now, to follow along with these streams as they come. I really am going to put this in the forefront of the topics and discussion because its applications are just endless. And as we start to traverse this new frontier, it is us who are going to be interacting with this technology and leading it. And it is us who will have the ability to try and guide the new world in the vision that we see it. Not just the small pool of programmers with probably very good intentions that traveled to Silicon Valley of yesterday, but really it's opening up. And whether it be through cryptocurrency or more accessible artificial intelligence, we have a duty to play in a world that is coming to be. And I'm excited for it. And I think that it's very important to be excited for things right now. Hard times are nothing new in the world, and I think a lot of people came together under the flag of religion, or under the flag of community, or the flag of this or that. And right now there's not a lot of flags under the flag of pet ownership. You gotta find your flag. And maybe, hopefully, with my channel, I can be one. My DMs are open, and if anything that I've said to you has struck out in a way that is, I can't guarantee that I have all of the answers or this or that, but feel free and reach out. Reach out to people who are in your immediate circle during these times, because I know that it's hard, and it's going to get a little bit harder before it gets better. Yeah, again, to my community, I have met some of the most amazing people over the past couple of months, and I'm just so grateful for the support that you guys have given me, guys and gals. I really am hoping to continue coming out with things. Thank you so much for your patience and everything. Yeah, I think that's just about it. I'm going to end the stream there, and I hope to be back tomorrow. I've got an all-day occasion, so the next daily dividend should be Sunday. Okay. You guys continue to look after yourselves. Try and interface with the world. Bring your attention into it. It's hard. It's not easy. It's going to be difficult. But just in everyday interactions, understand that what's happening is a beauty. And in the hard times, there's beauty. And we need you here with us. You guys have a good night. I'll talk to you soon.